So it seems like you have a lot of experience in package managers, but I'm sure the top question on everybody's mind is why do we need another one? What is VLT and what sets it apart from the pack?
Yeah, so I did the crazy thing, started a company or based around some open source ideas I had, and decided to pull along my friends and former teammates. Isaac Schluter, who I think has been on the podcast before, the creator of NPM. I stole him away from his side projects at the time, and got our team back together pretty much. Roy Adorno, who was also with me at NPM and then GitHub, also joined us, poached him from Google, and then Luke Karras as well, who was on our team. We poached him directly from GitHub and brought him into Volt. And the reason why is really, there's a few different reasons, but I think the big one is just most package managers are just clients. They are still sort of bound to the legacy infrastructure that is NPM and the legacy APIs that NPM provides to you. So there's not a lot of innovation happening on the back end or the infrastructure side. And so I spent a number of years focused on sort of products and engineering on the client, and saw all these opportunities that if we had the right APIs, we could actually really sort of push upstream some of the problems. And I think the opportunities were sort of further upstream in terms of how we could provide new services for the ecosystem. So that's the big rock that I think that we're pushing. And I think it's the differentiator that going forward is that, we'll be providing our own services and our own registry here very shortly.
Package management in JavaScript is complicated, which I'm sure nobody knows that better than you. But I feel like it's only getting more complicated. So we have a proliferation of runtimes. So Dino and Bun are two very prominent runtimes now, alongside Node as sort of like server-side runtimes. Obviously, browsers continue to advance. We have ESM. So now we have a new registry JSR. Who knows if Bun's going to do their own registry or what that looks like. And as the Dino team has sort of communicated, compatibility in the ecosystem actually becomes really important. So if someone's using NPM, being able to install a package from JSR became like an important thing for them. And I assume that that's going to be a similar situation with what you're building, but you are explicitly trying to go like an NPM compatible route. So frame the context and the storytelling behind like what, not just like what the technical opportunity here is, but like what is the real value that like having another package manager can unlock? Or, maybe not even just package managers, maybe just the wrong terminology, but however you would explain it, like what is the real value unlock that you're trying to push for?
Yeah, what I would say is like we could use the term client. So what are the for the client side, when we talk about clients, NPM, PNPM. NPM is a lot of things, but the NPM client is sort of the de facto first party client to the service that is the NPM registry, public registry. And so, Yarn and, PNPM, and now, Bun and Dino, they all have their own clients that essentially can communicate with NPM compatible registries. And what that means is there's this very poorly defined documentation around what the APIs are that would make you an NPM compatible registry. I screamed into a void for a number of years to try to get us to document this API because there's actually very few folks that have done the work to go look at actually what the NPM first party client does and then basically reverse engineer what those APIs and expected responses are. So there's no like open API doc sitting somewhere that folks can use to be like, hey, this is what I can expect to either scaffold for myself to build a registry or that I can use to build a client. And so I think that I guess you're sort of saying what's the opportunity here, and in terms of compatibility, we really have to look at like what the core primitive is that we're sharing today, and that is the de facto standard that NPM created, which is a package JSON really. A package to NPM is just any tarball that has a package JSON in it. Doesn't need a README. It doesn't need any other contents. It just needs like a valid JSON file that's called package JSON in the root. And specifically, there's two fields that need to be there, the name and version. That was not even the case recently. And we can get into this later, but I surfaced a pretty serious bug in terms of the public registry not validating the contents of the packages. So historically, the NPM ecosystem, in terms of the things that we're sharing, it's these packages. And so that sort of core primitive is the thing that I think is going to continue no matter what. And you see, even with JSR, they've created essentially an interface for anybody to consume a JSR package via sort of an NPM-like service that transforms the projects into packages. Like, so a project that has a package JSON, whether or not you're using just the Dino JSON config, they'll sort of mutate or transform the project so it can be consumed by, these other clients. So there's some compatibility that they've baked into the registry. And I think that's going to have to continue. We've actually done the same thing with VSR. We have a pretty, we are basically giving you an NPM compatible registry.
So focusing on the client a little more, as Justin was saying, JavaScript's gotten pretty complicated. It might not just be one package in one repo. Typically we work with monorepos. So does Volt help me build monorepos? Is it just focused more on like a subset of use cases? Like, what are you guys aiming for here?
Yeah. So by default, we have workspace support or monorepo support. And actually we do, with a few of the different capabilities inside of the Volt client, we do support other package managed project types. So PNPM, you can be using a PNPM to manage your dependencies, and you can use the Volt GUI to actually explore your project, which we thought was interesting use case. And so, yeah, workspaces are definitely first class in terms of how we want to support them. We have taken a similar approach to how PNPM basically took a importer type strategy. NPM, when I was there, we actually implemented NPM workspaces in V7. It was one of those things that was a long outstanding need from 2016 when Yarn sort of introduced workspaces. It took us a long time to get there, but that was sort of tacked on to NPM, and so you could really tell the APIs weren't native to the client. And we're taking a bit more of a holistic strategy with how we look at not just workspaces, but dependency traversing, all together. And that starts with having sort of a holistic understanding of your dependency graph and your projects. And the way that we're doing that is by treating your dependency graph just like you would the DOM. So instead of, in the front end, you have the document object model, which is created by browser based on your HTML markup. Well, we believe, there's something out there like your dependency object model where you could essentially traverse all your dependencies in a standardized way, or at least the way that we believe can be standardized, and use a common language to essentially traverse that graph. And so we've created a dependency selector syntax that essentially mimics what CSS looks like to the DOM, and essentially having primitives on the nodes, like the type, let's say like a dependency is a workspace or it's not a workspace, makes it really easy for you to write a selector essentially that allows you to filter your dependencies for the purpose of running tasks or doing installations. And so instead of having sort of tacked on flags for all your subcommands to run, scripts or to install, dependencies into one project or another, you get sort of a common language that can be used across the entire tool.